I finally got hands on this book that has been shaking up the British community or the British country or England as a whole in regards to the royal family. Now, this is a book written by Virginia Roberts Giuffre, and it is a book that is behind all the sex trafficking that Epstein was involved in and Prince Andrew. It took me 10 hours to read this book. I'm going to tell you exactly what I read from this book, what I think about this book, and whether you should read this book. So stay tuned and let's get into this very video because it's going to be juicy. But I want to give a disclaimer. If you're someone who has gone through any physical abuse, who has gone through any sexual abuse, this may be very triggering. I would say to you that please do not watch this video. Come back next time for my normal type of videos, and hopefully you take some time to talk to people, heal and get better, because this video is going to be a little bit graphic because the things written in this book, she left no stones turned. Okay, another thing I wanted to mention is that this is going to be a spoiler. So if you haven't read the book or intend to read this book, go and read this book and then come back to this video. Then we can have a chat in the comments. Okay. Cool. Anyways, if you do not know who I am, my name is Lucia Cow. I'm a serious self-help book reader that takes the time to read books, share with you my opinions, and I let you know if the book is worth reading. Today we're going to be talking about a memoir, something that I don't normally talk about, but the reason as why I'm talking about this is because of people in power abusing their power, and also women whose voice have been silenced for a very long time. Okay, let us get started. So in the beginning of this memoir written by Virginia, and let's just remember that Virginia took her life 6 months ago, which was this year in April, before her book was released. So the book and all the contents of the book are written by, obviously the writer and the journalists and the investigators. Everything has been fact checked. So at the beginning of the book, the lady explains, the writer explains that this very particular book has been fact checked. So everything that Virginia did explain to her, she had to go and fact check them by talking to the close family members, talking to people who have been around that environment during that time. So everything has been fact checked and everything seems to be true or is true to a high degree. Okay, so let us get started. I always say this when it comes to things like physical abuse, mental abuse, or sexual abuse, it always starts from somewhere. And this is where Virginia's story starts from. So she was abused from a very young age. So the abuse that she endured started from a very long time. So let us not cut corners. So Virginia was abused by her father, abused by the friends of her father. She was later on abused by different kind of people that she met in her life. And it felt like her life, she was just meant to be a sex sort of slave. In the beginning of the book, I become very annoyed at the fact that where were the parents? Where was the mom at that time? Because the dad was sexually abusing her. The dad would walk into the room and do things to her and tell her, you can never mention these things to anybody. And she had to keep quiet about these accounts. At the age of 7 years old, she was abused by her father, she was abused by her husband, she was abused by the people that she thought would be her caregivers. Virginia has gone through a lot. She's gone through orphanages, she's gone through foster homes, she's gone through homes that are meant to be a safety net that ended up being a place of torture, pain, and misery. She ran away from home at the early age of 14 years old because she couldn't take the abuse that was happening to her in her own household. So her dad, obviously, her father, the one that is meant to be her first love, handed her over to his friend Foster, who abused her over and over again. And Foster was also abusing his own daughter or niece or someone like that. There was another girl involved there that he was abusing as well. She did not understand what this was, and every single time things changed, the questions that he asked her to do, the things that he wanted her to do, became worse and worse and worse. So she ran away from home. And what annoys me about that part is that where was the mother? Surely when your husband is coming out of the bed every single night and going for a certain period of time, you don't question that? I do not know. I would question that. But it has been alleged that the mother said she was not aware of the abuse that was happening, but she cannot deny the fact that that abuse did happen. which is a very important thing. Because a lot of women who have men, who have husbands that abuse little young girls, always deny that. They always say, that girl is lying. She just wants to steal my husband. But I commend the mother of Virginia for standing up and saying, you know what, I was not aware that was happening, but I cannot deny the fact that it did happen, you know. So she's crediting her daughter, but she's not fully saying that I know, I'm aware of all these accounts and all that kind of stuff. So later on, Virginia moved out, went on the streets, and she was the typical girl back in the 90s that would be called absolutely beautiful. Obviously, blonde, blue eyes, you know, slim. And we know back in the day, that's it. That's like the typical ish girl. Like, you can look at all the magazines, all the models and everyone. This is the kind of stature and this is the kind of look that they did have, which all makes sense and why she would be such a popular girl. So anyways, she was recruited by a girl called Epstein. Espionage. Let me get the name correct. I think the name is Espionage. I may be pronouncing it wrong, but anyway, he was the guy that picked her up on a limo. She was sitting on the street. She had been sexually abused just a few hours ago, and she was sitting on the street, you know, looking sad, looking miserable. This guy recruited her and said, I do have a friend. Recruited her in terms of being like a model, like to go into this modeling agency and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, she started off by doing acts of sexual stuff. She's 14. Let's remember, she's 14. Started doing acts of sexual stuff to obviously this man. And then after that, she got a job. I'm skipping a lot of things because I really want you to read this book, and we're going to get to the most important part that you really want to listen to. She got a job at a spa. She wanted to advance her spa, you know, qualities to become a better, you know, when you get a job that you really love, you want to learn more. You want to get so much out of the job that you can apply those skills somewhere else, or you can become, you know, you can get a higher rank, like you can become an assistant manager or you can become an owner. All those kind of things sort of do you know, influence your stay at a job for someone who is very hardworking. And that is what Virginia really wanted. So this is when Maxwell walks in. Maxwell walks into the spa where she is, and she admires Maxwell. She admires the way she carries herself. She's very enlightened by her. And then obviously Maxwell takes an interest in Virginia, looks at Virginia, and she's like, oh, okay, this girl could be up to something and she could be something. So she obviously gives her card. She tells her, can I have your phone number? Virginia didn't have a phone at that time. You know, gave her card and say to her, you know what, call me whenever. And Virginia gave her work number, you know, obviously, because she didn't have a phone. That was the only point of contact. So days later, Maxwell calls her and tells her, you know what, I've got a gig for you. I've got a rich friend that you can, you know, get some money from. You can, you know, do some massage, and that's it. So she's very excited. Of course, you're doing something for someone popular, someone who could advance your career. I would do the same if someone said to me, you know what, I've got a celebrity that would like your services, would like them to maybe review your book, review their book, come to our place, do this and that. I would definitely do that, because of course, who wouldn't, because you're trying to advance your career, and more clients and more people will help you do that. So obviously, blindsided, she went there, and guess who drove her to the house? The dad. Her dad drove her to the house where Giuffre was. At that time, she didn't know who Giuffre was, obviously. So anyways, Maxwell welcomed her, took her upstairs, and Maxwell said to her, okay, this is the client, this is what you're going to do. So the massage was very unusual. You know, he took his clothes off, and she was asked to do certain things that I think are beyond massage. But after the massage happened, she was given good money, like really good money, and she was like, this money is really good. And obviously, as a kid, told her she's a good girl, pampered her, made her feel good. She left, she went back home, you know, very excited, you know, saying, you know what, this is really good. Called her back again, and the more she came back, the more acts of sexual stuff she was asked to do. I can't mention everything, but this involved using tools on her and tools on him. Another part of the book is that she had to do things to Maxwell and she had to do things to Giuffre in the same entire, you know, room. Sometimes he would ask her to do things with Maxwell as he's watching. In that very particular scene, sometimes Giuffre would ask her to wear a school uniform, you know, to act in that kind of manner. Fetish. Anyways, then they gave her more money. they asked her, we'll call you back. She said, I don't have a phone. Then obviously Giuffre said to her, I want you to have your own apartment, your own place, because she didn't have a place where she was living. Later on, she had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend was called Tony. So she was living with the boyfriend, but she was also doing these things with Maxwell. She was going on private jets. She was funded, all those, the lifestyle. Giuffre had rules that they had to be checked every 3 months. They had to be checked for any sexual transmitted diseases. They had to eat particular meals because they had to remain skinny. She was told that she needs to look young. She cannot look older. So it means that Giuffre did have a definite fetish for younger women, because one of the requirements was that she had to look young. She had to say that she was younger than her own age, because when she was taken by this very guy in a limo that told her, I'm taking you for a modeling agency, the guy asked her, how old you are? She was like, I'm 16. Then he was like, how old are you? She was like, I'm 15. So then he was like, okay, that is even better. So Giuffre expected her that she had to look younger. She had to look slim. They used to drink milk with cereal every single morning like kids, and all that disgusting stuff, that she had to keep a certain weight. They had to check them for all these STIs. But that is so rich, because the standard was not a double standard. Because if he's requiring these girls to check themselves every 3 months for any sexually transmitted disease or anything that would catch him, he should surely do that, because he's doing those kind of things with different type of men. Anyways, after a period of time, Maxwell and Epstein required Virginia to do other things that she was doing to them, to other influential people. Scientists have been mentioned in this. We'll get to that part. But so she had to perform these acts on the very famous Prince Andrew. So in this book, I'm going to tell you that part, because in the book, apparently they started off with the bath, and he was not very keen of things to do with the bath. He was very keen on fit. He has a foot fetish, like Prince Andrew has a fit thing. That's what Virginia did explain. Also, she explained that she was told that she needs to do the things that she was doing to Epstein, to Andrew, and this happened, over a period of time. 3 times she did things with Prince Andrew, over 3 times. The first time on the bed, and one of the remarks that Prince Andrew said, she said to her that, oh, you're the same age as my daughters. You are the same age as my daughters, but you're happy to sleep with somebody. Like, how sick is that? How sick is this? Anyway, she was there and she was very excited. She was like, oh my God, this is like someone influential. That is where that famous picture has emerged from, where she took that picture, Maxwell at the back, her with Prince Andrew, because she was like, I need to take a picture, from this or out of this to show my boyfriend. So she went back home. Her boyfriend Tony told her boyfriend, oh my God, guess who I met? This and that. I was told to do this and that. But having a boyfriend who takes that is very commendable, that you can go and do those things, be abused in such a way. And people would say, why didn't the boyfriend stand up and take her? She was threatened. They took the name of her brother. They told her that, we know you where your brother goes to school, so we'll come for you. You're not allowed to speak about these things, because everyone in the Epstein environment or worker was meant to sign an NDA, which is like, we all know, non-disclosure agreement. So she couldn't do much about that. Now, she has also mentioned that she was told to perform acts on a prime minister whose name is not known. However, the lady that wrote the book, who investigated everything, knows the names of every single person. Virginia decided not to mention the names for the protection of her family, of her life and everything, which is understandable, because she has every right to protect her 3 children. She's got 2 boys and 1 girl. And she also mentioned that scientists were also involved. She also mentioned, she put down names like Barack Obama and some of his workers. She put down names like Naomi Campbell. She put down a lot of names that I can't quite remember on my top of my head. Is it Bill Gates? No, it's not Bill Gates. It's this man. Who is the electric car man? Oh my god, guys, put it down in the comments. I'm trying to remember what his name is. Oh my god, I know him. Just for the sake of this video, you can see how raw this video is. I am forgetting the name of, he's also mentioned in there, but there are a lot of people that are not mentioned. But I hope as time goes on, those names will be mentioned and it will all come up, because it needs to come out. Anyways, so Virginia and her husband, they really had like a rough start. So what happened, the way Virginia was able to break away from Epstein, is that Epstein wanted her to have a child Wait, before we get to that part, I have to mention that Virginia did have a miscarriage, and she was lied to about that miscarriage, but everything surrounding the documents and all that do indicate a miscarriage. However, the documents were sealed. Everything about everything was sealed. You can see how much power they had. All the logs of the travels that she traveled in a private jet were always sealed. The names were not used as per the actual names of Virginia and what her name was. Her age was always played around with in terms of that. So there were a lot of things that were covered up, and you can see how money and influence works. Anyway, so she sat down one day with Maxwell and Epstein, and they said to her, you know what, we want you to have a child, but there are terms of this child. You don't own this child is not yours, you have nothing to do with it, you can't talk about it. All she had to do is to just produce this lovely child and walk away. So then she said, one of the conditions, if you want me to do that, is that I need to advance on my spa skills, I need to study, I need to go to school. So that's how she ended up in an Asian country, which I can't quite remember. I don't know if it was Thailand. So she went there, obviously under the supervision of Epstein and Maxwell. And Maxwell said to her, and Epstein was like, we want you to go and scout another lady out there that you can come back with. Remember, some of the girls that Epstein and Andrew had, or all those influential people had, did not speak any English, and they made jokes that it's easier to have them around because they didn't speak any English. Anyways, so when she went down there, she was given a job to scout, but things changed. That's when she met her husband, Robbie, and they got married there, started their own life, and yeah, things advanced and things became a bit bigger. Now, this is where money and influence comes in. When Virginia initially started this case and initially started exposing everyone, she's not the one that started this, but it was different kind of women that started speaking up and coming up and talking about the whole entire case. Now, when the case came up, there were a lot of things like non-prosecution, settlements. Virginia did the Daily Mail. As you're watching this, the Daily Mail, you guys have done a lot of damage to a lot of people in this country, and I'm going to call you out. And this is not a video to call out because I'm someone who's not very opinionated, but the Daily Mail is something else. The Daily Mail paid Virginia $160,000 and told her for 3 months, you cannot talk about anything to do with this case. We're going to post and publish anything that we want, but she has no say in anything. So over a period of time, her name has been tarnished. She has been called a sex slave. Of course, she thought that she was going to die a sex slave, because for the rest of her life, she kept on moving from place to place, running away from tabloids, running away from the people of Epstein, because they kept on, following her, trying to figure out where she is, getting news from her, attacking her and her family, just because she decided to speak up on these very big influential people. This shouldn't be the case. The case should be like, okay, cool, she said this, let's investigate this, but her story has been turned upside down. She's been called all sorts of names in the public just because she stood up these influential people. She did settle with, I think the first settlement that she had with Epstein was $500,000, which is nothing. She later on found out that other women asked for 10 times more than that. Anyways, further down the line, Prince Andrew also settled a certain amount with her, which she cannot disclose. For some reason, she cannot disclose that because it is sealed. Why would they seal that? Because at the end of the day, when the royal family does pay money or whatever money they use, that money is public funds. It's from us. So, yeah, I should be able to disclose that. I don't want to go deep down because this is a whole legal matter and a whole legal case. Anyways, what has led to this is that Epstein was arrested anyways at some point, because a lot of videotapes and a lot of things were found, the Epstein files. One of the reasons as to why also Virginia did not mention the names of the people that in the book, for example, Prime Minister and a senator, is because the Epstein files do hold the names and the videos of all these people. This is why they are pushing for the Epstein files to be released, and Trump is also fighting for the Epstein files to be released, because if they are released, then a lot of things will be uncovered. This feels like a whole Diddy case all over again. Anyways, fast forward. Prince Andrew, right now, the repercussions of it is that he has lost his title. He has not lost his title. He has decided not to use his title. And what I found out is that once a title is given in the royal family, it cannot be taken away. So he has just decided not to use the title, but the title has not been taken away from him. Okay. And obviously they are debating about where he's living, he's staying, because it's a luxury place that he's staying in. So they have to think about either that cottage or wherever he's living, or that kind of arrangement. But what it comes to say in this whole entire book, if you're going to decide to pick up this book and read it, I'm going to tell you that she explains things in a very graphic way. Sexual acts, sexual positions, sexual tools, things that she had to do, the swallowing, the spitting, if you around that whole environment thing, the beating and every kind of thing, and the trauma that it brought about, you know, her family as well, what it has cost her children. And unfortunately, she does mention in this book that if she ever passes away with no any other reason, just know that someone did something to her, and her father and her family are saying something happened to her because it's her brother that found her obviously in her apartment or her house when she had, you know. So she did mention that if anything ever happens to her, just know she didn't do it because she's, you know, fighting for this. She has a foundation that she started up that obviously helps women who are undergoing this. But the whole entire book is worth reading, but reading with caution, because you're going to read this book and close this book and cry a little bit and feel sad and then come back again. For a 14-year-old child to be used and abused in this way from a young age, from 7 years old, you're being abused left and right, from your dad to everybody that you meet on your way. You're just being abused. It becomes your norm. It becomes normal. You meet men, and when they do things to you, you just think it's okay. But then at the end of the day, it is not okay. And if you're watching this video and you're under that kind of trap or that kind of situation, it is not okay. It is not okay. If someone is touching you where you don't want to touch, if you say no, a no is a no. And people should respect this. You should respect a no to a no. It doesn't matter how much you want it, kill it. You know, that whole desire about it. Anyway, so I hope Virginia's book gets sold out. She gets lots of money that can help the family, because from what I read, they were not living a luxury lifestyle. They were just living off the settlements and the money that they had. The husband was working really hard for the children. So I hope this money can help the family, and I hope that justice is proven. There's a lot of exposure in here, and I rate this book a 5-star. If I could, I would rate it a 6 or 7-star, because she says so much, but little is being heard. She explains so much, but so much is being little is being talked about. You know, tabloids pick what they want to run with, and they don't think about, you know, her health or her family or everybody else around her, because this is something that she has done. For someone to speak about people as powerful as Epstein, as Prince Andrew, as our prime minister, as we know, and also mentions big names, that's all I want to say. But let me know what you think about this, and I'll see you in my next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.